Hey, how's it going, everybody? And welcome to Hot Gamers Only, the show that now only has two hosts. We kicked off Ethan.
Hey.
It's just me and Hunter this week.
It's the American Takeover episode.
Ayo. Anyways, yeah, Ethan has had some stuff going down this week. It ended with him getting his bundled. That's out. That's as far as I'm gonna go into that. Anyways, yeah, welcome to Hot Gamers Only. We don't do a spiel anymore. Ethan got rid of that. And this week's topic, we're talking about villains.
Swell, by the way.
Right, I forgot. I forgot how to be a host, dude. Ethan got rid of the spiel, and I don't know how to be a host anymore.
I mean, yeah, that was the one thing about. It's easier to start things for me when I know what I want to say at the beginning. That's why when I did Let's Plays, I would always just start with the same phrase. Exactly.
And plus, it's just era familiarity for the viewers. But yeah, this is Hot Gamers Only, the show that talks in circles the whole time. What if we never actually got to the topic we said we were going to talk about?
That would be funny. You play anything this week?
Dude, actually, yes.
What'd you do?
So yesterday, or the day before, I had gone to my local game store. So... yeah. Story for people who don't know, I have this game store nearby me. It specializes in like a lot of older games.
Oh, I got
so like that's
great.
just like a heaven for someone like me. And let me go grab that real quick. They had great PS1 game in stock. The Legend of Dragoon.
Wow, words. Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I've been playing that. I've been really loving it. This game's pretty great.
That's cool. That's one that I always heard about, and I'd be like, oh, you never had that when I was younger. I should play it sometime, but I'm
Dude,
also bad at making time for, like, old RPGs. I'm like, I never know when to do them.
This one, like, we're gonna just go off until we get to the real topic.
Yeah.
Legend of Dragoon, like, it's not a game that wastes your time. It gets going right away.
Oh, nice.
And, like, the combat is so fun. It's a lot like... Hunter, did you ever play like, Paper Mario or Super Mario RPG?
I played Bug Fables recently, which, like, borrowed from,
yeah.
Thousand Year
Door. Combat in this game, in Legend of Dragoon, it's like... It has the same kind of, like, timing mechanics for, like, timed attacks. Just, like, keep the player engaged in battle. And sometimes your enemies can counterattack, so you need to be... It's not just, like... You're not just falling asleep at the wheel. Like, you need to be actively paying attention to what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because even with games like those, like with Bug Fables, eventually, like, later in the game, I'd be, like, falling asleep and still being able to put in, like, the combination that I needed.
Yeah. And also, like, the game keeps you on your toes with, like, enemies that can just randomly counterattack whenever they feel like. So, yeah, the game, like... I've heard nothing but good about this game. And it's a shame that it's kind of been forgotten to time, but this game's great. Play it if you can.
Was that like a Studio Japan game? I forget.
I think it was, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm not seeing any like other publishers besides Sony Computer Entertainment on the cover.
Yeah.
Like, I was
trying to remember because I couldn't remember if I remember hearing like level 5 attached to that, but I think that was more like someone's dream. Like if that game came back, they wanted the level 5 to make it.
Yeah,
which would be cool. I like level 5. They make good games.
Honestly, like I'm surprised like Square wasn't attached to this game. Truthfully,
I mean PlayStation 1 RPG. Yeah, I would suspect.
Kind of just synonymous. What about you, dude? What have you been up to?
Oh, well, I beat Resident Evil Village on Monday, and I followed that up with beating Returnal on Tuesday, so look out for a review for Resident Evil coming later, because I've got the script for that all finished. Yeah, I mean, it was nice. I'm like, oh man, too bad I'm probably not far enough in Hollow Knight to beat that. I'd love to keep this winning streak going.
You just get the 3-peat.
Oh, yeah. On top of that, this is a sentence I never thought I'd say ever again in my life. I have been playing the World of Warcraft with my older brother.
The World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
Interesting. Do tell.
So, I was always like the most casual of Warcraft players when like my brothers would own the accounts and whatever, and I just play here and there. Basically, I didn't even play it like an MMO. I just played it like this really expansive RPG, just running around doing quests. I was the nerd reading the descriptions for like with the lore and stuff. So it was always interesting.
I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just like, I never thought I'd be running around the streets of Stormwind City again. It's been interesting to get used to. Also, because I played, like, across several different expansions, it's fun to see, because my brother wanted to specifically play the classic WoW thing that they've got going now.
Oh, yeah.
It, like, peels it back to the vanilla, and then I think in June is when they're doing the first expansions, like, coming to that, so... because... the game got really bloated and strange over time. They just kind of streamlined it so much to the point where, like, there's no sense of exploration anymore, is what it felt like the last time I played. So it was cool to come back to, like, how it used to feel.
Did it feel, like, familiar coming back? Like, was it like riding a bike, or...
Strangely enough, I'm like, oh man, I don't think I gave this game credit enough for like how much I remember about it. Because like hearing some of the music and stuff, I'm like, oh man, this does take me back. So
that's awesome, dude.
Interesting.
I never like gave myself a chance to get into like World of Warcraft or anything like that.
I mean, I typically don't sink much time. Like, MMOs are always, like, a commitment I'm never really willing to make a lot of the time. Like, for example, Final Fantasy XIV looks really cool, and I've dabbled with, like, the first 10 levels of a character in that, but I've never stuck with it, because I just always wanted to play something else. But I certainly respect it, because it looks super interesting.
It does look really good, especially how it rebounded after the original release.
Yeah, it's like gaming's greatest Phoenix story there.
Like, Realm Reborn is truly just a masterclass in how to come back.
Motorcycles on our end.
Yeah, I guess outside of Legend of Dragoon, I also put another few hours into Horizon. Sure, still is a video game.
That's a no. Well.
No, Hunter, I had a brief moment of joy. This game gave me the greatest feeling for like 10 seconds where I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever played. So I finally got to like the mind control spear, and I controlled one of the beasts, and I got to ride it, and I'm like, this is amazing. I trampled over another monster, and it just died right away, and I'm like, this is fantastic. And then I had to park it somewhere, and it died.
So, you can just take them over. You can just take them over anyway.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it limits you on what you can control at first or not, but you can eventually like start controlling even some of the bigger ones.
Ooh.
I don't think you ever get to like take over one of the T-Rexes or anything.
Oh.
Like the big, like, I don't know.
Just like that, types. You lost me.
Yeah.
But no, I started playing the first story mission, and it's where you have to fight those corrupted robots.
Oh, yeah.
In those areas. I've gotten to an interesting loop right now where I posted this clip to my Twitter. Basically, I kill the game wants you to kill two of these, like, fix up two of these corrupted zones. I took care of the first one pretty easily. And the second one, I'm just stuck in an infinite death loop where every time I respawn, it spawns me right in front of an enemy, so I don't even get a chance to try and do the game's stealth mechanics, because there's just a monster right on respawn. So
this reminds me of like when I played Resident Evil 2 Remake. One time the first time Mr. X was chasing me down. Dude chased me for like half an hour before he finally like cornered me next to like the save point in the middle of the police station and just killed me there. And then I respawned at the save point in the middle of the police station, and he was still just standing there.
Oh my god.
I was like, oh no.
Oh, this is terrifying. I get it, he's scary now.
Yeah. I was like, first of all, this is breaking the rules. The enemies don't come to the save points. But that particular one was special, or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget why.
Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's it from me.
Yeah, I don't have anything else interesting to say regarding.
Well, good night, everybody. 11-minute episode? Hell yeah. But let's just get right into the actual content. Now that we've spent 11 minutes ignoring the title.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking villains. Something that surprisingly we haven't done yet on this show. I don't know how we dodged the topic for so long and found so many more niche topics before this, but
this is because a lot of the times the topics get left up to me, and I'm always like, something weird we could talk about.
Oh my god.
Jumping to just kind of ignoring obvious ones because I'm dumb like that.
You are one of those top 10 creators. God. But yeah, we're going to be talking villains. You check down in the description. I'm going to tell Ethan put the title of the games and not the actual villains. So if you don't want spoilers, just click around. Same thing if you're on the audio only podcast, if you're listening on Spotify or something like that. Just check the description of the episode, and there will be timestamps to skip around to. Hunter, remind me to tell Ethan after this, because I'm certainly gonna forget.
I got you.
Anyways, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'll start with the one that Ethan wanted to make sure we mentioned too. GLaDOS from Portal is fantastic. But Portal is really well known for like its sense of humor and stuff, and a lot of that's just because GLaDOS is hilarious. Being this kind of AI that's forcing you to do these tests and also like dry humor insulting you the whole time is fantastic every time. One of my favorite ones was in like the middle of Portal 2. She talks about how she's gonna force you to do this for the rest of your life. And she's gonna like, she's gonna like filter the air from each chamber that you're doing back into the next one that you'll be in. So you're always breathing the same room full of recycled air. That cracked me up to no end. And she just always has good lines like that.
For sure.
Yeah. The first game with the whole companion cube thing, being like, don't get attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
Then at the end, when you have to incinerate the thing, it's like, oh man, I can't believe you did that, you monster.
You monster.
I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it's great. Like, GLaDOS definitely probably contributes to my own sense of humor in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Dude, I still remember when Portal 1 and 2 were coming out and just like took the whole internet by storm. Like, between her and Wheatley in the second game, like, those two are fucking great.
In the second game, also Cave Johnson.
Oh my god.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
The performance of his life there. Amazing. The Lemons rant is still one of my favorite things.
Dude, have you seen that meme that's been going around from the Invincible anime? Where it's just like, think.
With the dude that looks like J. Jonah Jameson from the Spider-Man cartoon. My friend put on an episode of that this weekend. It turns out he's voiced by J.K. Simmons.
He is.
I was like, oh man, that's hilarious.
I saw this ended up in my recommended on YouTube. Somebody had taken that scene from Invincible where he's like, think, and put Cave Johnson's lemon rant over it. I'm like, this works way too well. I'm uncomfortable, incredible. But also kudos to you for doing this.
That's amazing.
Oh. No, GLaDOS is super fucking great. Like, I'm one of those people that probably like one of the only people in the world that hasn't finished Portal 1. I don't know why. I played like half of it and then I just kind of forgot I had it, and now I don't even have Steam on my computer. So,
do you ever play 2?
I didn't play the campaign of 2, but during my last year of college, my roommate had a PS3, so we were playing co-op on Portal 2. Nice. And I enjoyed that. Like, I enjoy the Portal games. They're super fun, super clever, and GLaDOS's writing definitely is what keeps you going.
Yeah, that's like, what keeps it from just being this kind of just do this because sort of thing.
Yeah.
which I always appreciate when games give you a motivator beyond just because.
Nice. Anyways, I didn't write down the fucking timestamp.
Well, it took us like 10 minutes to get to the topic, and then I started. So
I wrote it down. I wrote down Portal 1 and 2 in the notebook, and I just didn't write a timestamp. Oh, Ethan's gonna hate me. Whatever.
This is hilarious. Just go with like 10:50 or something, and then this next one will be like 17.
We'll say like 11:30.
Ah, cool.
That'll give us a ballpark of where to look. So let's write this next one down. My first one is recency bias because it's Xenosaga.
Oh, here we go.
You can't stop me from talking about these video games. Please play them. What time is it? 17?
Yeah, just about.
Right on the dot. Anyways, Albedo is great. He's basically everything I would ever want in a villain. He's batshit insane.
Those are always
and
great.
He's voiced by Crispin Freeman, who's just a fucking Chad. And he has huge connections with one of the main characters in your party, which just contributes so much to how great a villain can be. Because, like, it's one thing to just pull a random schmuck off the street and say you're the villain, but it's another thing for one of your characters to have direct connections with who the villain is. And the story of Albedo and Rubido was like the central focus of episode 2, and my god, it's the best part of episode 2. Genuinely, you get to learn why Albedo is as insane as he is. You know, this is a spoiler video, so who cares? Like, Hunter, do you mind if I talk about this?
I think I already kind of know the gist of it, so it's not gonna like ruin anything for me. I'm still gonna play these games someday, hopefully.
Yeah. So basically, the general gist of Albedo is that he was born with this power to regenerate from any injury, to the point where there are several times he blows his own head off and then it just regenerates it. And he's like, see, why don't people just fucking regenerate their heads? Like, as a kid, he's like, as a kid, like, why don't these other people we're around just regenerate from these injuries that I'm inflicting on them?
Oh, man.
Because, like, I mean, he doesn't know any better. He thinks that's just something everyone can do. And then, like, it's just heartbreaking. Like, that scene in general, like, just seeing him after Rubido's like, dude, people can't regenerate. Only you have that power. And just seeing him break down at the thought of, like, eventually losing Rubido and their other brother, Negredo. Like, God. Play Xenosaga.
Did the third brother have like a black color scheme?
He had black hair, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
God, and then the scene right after that, he's digging graves for Rubido and Negredo. Like, dude.
Oh my god. This is like some Edgar Allan Poe stuff.
Please play these games, guys. Like, I can't stress it enough. Please play them. They're really, really good. If nothing else, watch the cutscenes. At least for episode 2, because, God, playing that game's miserable. And then flash forward to episode 1, and this dude's just off his fucking nut. You get to see him be absolutely insane. Just full tilt, unhinged. Dude rips off his own arm in front of one of your party members and then grows it right in front of them. Just pops back up. Oh, it's so funny. Dude rips off his head, drops it on the ground, head still talking, body still standing, squishes the head regrows. God. He's doing all of this while reciting poetry. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Crispin Freeman knew. Like, he's so good. And then third game, he's a lot less of a villain, but he's still there.
Is at least in a way that makes sense, like the arc finishes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, Xenosaga treats their villains well, treats all their characters well. Everybody gets a nice little bow on their story.
Oh. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I think I basically hit everything. Albedo's great. Yeah. Hunter, what you got for us?
So, like I was saying, I didn't know if we wanted to do the bad guy, or like the ones we didn't like later, or if we wanted to like bounce back and forth.
We can try and do like a nice bounce back.
Alright, well, in that case, the Arkham Knight from Batman Arkham Knight, and the combination of him with Scarecrow is done very messily. The whole game, or the whole, like, build up to that game, Rocksteady kind of promised that the Arkham Knight was an original character, like not from the comic books. That was a lie. I won't go into who it is, but I'm sure with that information you could make your own assumptions and probably be right. And because of that, and as much focus as he gets, and it just falling flat, the fact that Scarecrow is the other, like, main villain in that game, antagonizing you, when he was so cool in Asylum, with his sweet, like, fear gas levels and all of that, he just comes off as an afterthought in this one, where he's just kind of there laughing maniacally at the end, so that he can, like, hit Batman with the fear toxin, and like the only reason Scarecrow was the villain was so that they could make Joker show up in hallucinations. Is what it feels like, and that's a bummer, because I think that the game could have been much better if it focused more on Scarecrow and just had the Joker hallucinations, and maybe just did away with the Arkham Knight entirely.
Yeah. Seems weird to just use a villain to kind of ham-fist another villain in there.
Yeah, it is weird. But people criticize the Arkham games for having too much Joker a lot, but I always thought the Joker was... the way that they kept using him was interesting, so I didn't really care that much. It was how they didn't find creative ways to implement the other people was the issue.
Especially with a franchise like Batman, who has so many clever and interesting villains to pull from.
Yeah, like, Batman's C-level villains are more iconic than some of, like, other comic book characters' best villains.
Yeah.
Like, who's Flash's bad guy besides, like, Reverse Flash or whatever? I don't know. But I could definitely say that the Riddler is, like, not one of Batman's, like, highest tier enemies, but I know more about him than I'll ever know about any of Flash's villains, you know?
For better or worse, Batman and Robin made us remember Mr. Freeze.
Yeah. Or if you liked the animated series, his arc in that was really good, too.
That, too.
So, yeah. Arkham Knight, he fell flat.
Alright, so I guess if we're going with villains that didn't quite cut it for us, Final Fantasy V is a video game with great combat, great game mechanics, and it's super great. You can break it super easily. Nice job class system. One of the best implementations of job class system I've seen in Final Fantasy, or really any game, really. Its writing leaves a lot to be desired, though. It is certainly no literary masterpiece, and this is exemplified by X-Death, the villain. Now, don't get me wrong. X-Death, besides sounding like a fucking 5-year-old came up with his name, X-Death as a villain, like, in terms of raw power, it's there. Like, the threat is there. Dude opens up portals to alternate dimensions, annihilates, like, half the towns in the final world. The power is there. He's a dominant force to be afraid of. He's just really fucking dumb as a villain.
So he's one of those ones where even though he's strong, he's just not fun to, like, actually watch.
It's not like Kefka where the threat is there, but also there's an interesting villain behind it, or Sephiroth who, like, makes his presence known.
Yeah.
And basically just haunts Cloud. Or even Kanan Golbez, who, from Final Fantasy IV, who, like, Kain had the cool dynamic of being Cecil's best friend who turned evil. Like, that's neat. That's a neat dynamic. X-Death just exists. And, like, every time I think about him, I don't think about, like, his powers or his boss fights, although I do kind of think about his final boss fight. We'll get to that. But Xdeath...
I know about that one, too. It always cracks me up.
There's one scene in particular near the start of the final world where Xdeath reveals himself by... I shit you not, one of your characters has a splinter, like, on one of her fingers, and that's how Xdeath reveals himself. And he, in the GBA translation, he's like, "Blah ha ha, I hid myself as a splinter this whole time." And then he fights a turtle.
Oh my god, that does sound silly.
Final Fantasy V is a wacky game, and I'm really glad the gameplay's fun, because man, the story just isn't there. It's there, but man, it's an afterthought. And that final boss... You guys like trees?
This is always the one thing I knew about Xdeath, is that he turns into a tree.
God. The final boss, like, the first phase is just him fused with a tree. The sprite is so dumb. It's a tree, and then his head is, like, popping out of it.
Oh my god.
It's so goofy. But, like... I don't know, dude. FF5 is so weird. And the GBA translation really did not do that game any favors in terms of storytelling.
Oh, man. That's hilarious.
Like, it's a silly translation, but...
I guess while we're here...
Literally all we've got.
Final Fantasy villain that did not hit the mark for me, and this is symptomatic of the type of villain he is. Necron from 9.
Oh my god.
Showing up out of nowhere.
Yep.
I don't like villains that do that. He wasn't even alluded to. I can make peace with it if there's like some kind of reference somewhere, but Necron just shows up.
Oh yeah.
And
it's like right off the heels of the final fight with Kuja too.
Yeah, like you beat Kuja, Necron shows up, and then it's like, choose your party.
God. Why didn't the game just end with Kuja?
I don't know.
Like, it's how weird. Hard would that have been?
It's strange. I don't know.
Of course, FF9's also the game that had Ozma.
Well, that was a super boss.
Wonderful super boss.
Yeah. I don't even remember if I fought Ozma.
At least it's no Ys, Matt.
Yeah, Ys, Matt is very obnoxious.
What were they thinking with Ys, Matt? Honestly.
I want to know who thought that they had the foresight to be like, okay, this is going to have so much HP. Car rumblings on my end. This is going to have so much HP that we're going to need to give them the ability to save and come back to it. Why wouldn't you just make it have less HP at that point?
Honestly. Like, that just boggles the mind that someone thought that was a good idea.
It's not like it's Final Fantasy X where you can just pay Yojimbo $1 million money to just kill the thing for you. Yeah. Final Fantasy super bosses are hit and miss for me.
Honestly. Some of them are pretty nice. I know GBA FF6 added in like the whole Dragon's Den dungeon where you fight... It opens up after you fight all of the legendary dragons. And I think it makes like super bosses of the dragons, which is pretty cool.
That's cool, yeah.
And then that's how you get your character's ultimate weapons.
Oh, like character-specific ultimate weapons? That's cool.
Yeah. Please remake FF6 Square. People will buy it.
That would be so sweet. They don't even have to overhaul like what they're trying to do either. They could actually like they did with 7. They could just make it another turn-based RPG that looks pretty.
Honestly, like turn-based RPG that looks pretty. Make it look like Octopath. Keep the game intact. Like fucking print money.
Yeah,
I'll buy 10 of them. Please, just remake this game. All right, where were we? Video games, right?
I think technically it'd be my turn since I just kind of piggybacked off the Xdeath thing.
Yard,
so
go for it.
On to another good one. Metal Gear Solid is a series with just villains for days that are fantastic. The whole Foxhound unit in the first game is memorable. You have people like Psycho Mantis who plays with your controller and reads your memory card, and years later people will still never shut up about him because it's gaming's greatest magic trick.
It really is.
So he's wacky and cool. Sniper Wolf is really interesting as far as her whole tragic story. It's funny because Liquid Snake is arguably like one of the first ones people would think of, but I think he's one of the weakest villains in the series as far as on his own. He's just bad that their father that they got cloned from didn't like him. I'm like, weak. Revolver Ocelot's great. He's always like in the background of everything, being like cloak and dagger, backstabbing everybody that he ever meets. It's really cool. When you get to like Revengeance and stuff, Senator Armstrong is wacky and entertaining as all get out.
Same with what's it, Sam?
Sam is great. He's like the quintessential rival character, done really well in that kind of game. I'm like, yes, cool.
Great theme song.
Yeah. Oh man, the music in Revengeance is so good.
It's so good. I wish Revengeance was on PS4.
That would be nice.
It's such a crime that it's not.
I would buy it and play it again.
I would love to get to play it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to... like I've said in this episode, I don't have Steam on my computer.
Yeah, because it is on that.
Oops.
But yeah. It's so weird to me that like Metal Gear Solid as a series is kind of, aside from 5, is stranded on the PS3.
Yeah.
That's the furthest it's come. Like, you can't play 4 anywhere but there. The collection, I guess the collection is also on Vita, but it's equally as many people don't want to play
owns
that.
the Vita? Oh, right.
But yeah.
That's right,
Metal
you
Gear
and Ethan are
Solid's
the only
villain.
2 people that own that.
But yeah, Metal Gear Solid's villains, iconic to no end.
All right. Yeah, Metal Gear is definitely one of the games I'd like to try to get into it. I think I've said this before. I've got MGS1 somewhere on that shelf, probably in that stack of PS1 games.
Dude, if you decided you liked it too, like I don't think that 2 or 3 would run very expensively either, because a lot of people have them. It's not like they're rare.
Yeah. I don't know. My only thing with 1 is that, like, first of its kind PS1 game, like, might be a bit clunky and dated. But what do I know? I'm playing fucking Legends of Dragoon right now, so...
Yeah. It's hard for me to make a judgment on that, because, like, I play those games every few years anyway, so I'm still, like, always accustomed to how weird it might be.
Okie dokie. Moving forward. 35. Next on my list of good villains, we have probably an oddball choice, but he's someone that always really stuck out to me. It is Simeon from Octopath Traveler, the villain of Primrose's story.
Yeah, alright. He was good.
Yeah. So the beauty
Primrose's
of
story
Octopath...
was my favorite.
Yeah, she was my starter the first time I first playthrough.
Yeah.
That's because I started with the demo and it only gave me 2 choices. It's Primrose or Ulbrich.
Out of all of the backstories, hers was the one that seemed the most intriguing to me. Is why
honestly, yeah. For me, it's always a toss-up between her and Therion.
Therion's real cool, too.
Yeah, and on that note, he was very close to getting put on this list, but I think Simeon just barely edged it out. Yeah. Beauty of Octopath, like, 8 characters, 8 stories. You're bound to find somebody you like, regardless. Like, you can't hate everybody.
It'd be very hard to.
That would be very hard to.
I would in fact call you a crazy person.
Now, Hunter, you're going to have to try and help me out here. I didn't get time to do any research before this, and it's been a while since I played Octopath. So we're going to use both of our collective scattered memories.
Okay, we should be able to put together most of what's left.
Hopefully. I should probably write down what this is. So, Simeon is the villain of Primrose's story, and similar with what I said about Albedo, like he's someone who was kind of always constantly there. He grew up with Primrose's dad and was kind of like Primrose's guardian in a way. All this is sounding legit, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I think they had like a thing too.
I think so.
Almost.
Very briefly. But then, the dad got murdered. And so Primrose had to run away. Simeon being the mastermind behind the murder. And it all comes to a head in the final chapter where Simeon is basically putting on a play of Primrose's life.
Yeah.
And that part in particular just really stuck with me for just how mentally unwell you have to be to do something like that like to someone.
Psychotic.
Yeah.
Not to mention the turn on her at the end of the previous chapter was really well done. Because he was like introduced there and it was like, oh, cool, she has a friend. It's like,
she has a friend, yay! Stab.
Yeah.
And then the fact that like the boss fight itself is also really interesting because before you get to the actual fight with Simeon, you're basically doing this pre-fight against against like an actor version of Simeon and Primrose.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just threw me off the first time, and I'm like, is this like just because I started with Primrose as my character that this is happening? Like,
that's funny.
Like, as far as villains in Octopath go, they range from to sure, this is cool, I can get with this. And Simeon just kind of like blows them all out of the water. He's so memorable.
Not to mention the like, on top of, the whole conspiracy to ruin Primrose's life, his whole crime ring that he's running is very messed up.
Yeah.
Like, I forget the details of, like, what you were doing in Chapter 2, but there was, like, just straight up taking girls prisoner or whatever, and, doing horrible things to them that they try to dance around.
All the dudes with the crow marks,
yeah.
I think it was. But, like, I feel like you can kind of tell that Primrose was the character they put the most thought into story-wise. Like,
there's a reason. Feels that way.
There's a reason why she's front and center on the box art,
which is funny. It's because of the kind of story that she has that like the ending for her feels a little empty because it just kind of stops after she kills him. But
like it's just a revenge tale, but
she doesn't get anything really
after it.
Yeah.
Which boy howdy, that's how you do it. No More Heroes 2. Dude, you want to talk about him?
Oh, that's a good segue.
I'm like, that just popped into my head. Fucking, here we go. Jasper Bat Jr. You want to lead us off?
Oh my god. Not to mention all of the other... the years it's been since I've played that game for the first time and thought of all the different ways that could have been better. But Jasper Bat Jr. is... his voice sucks. He's basically made to be bad on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it wants you to feel the emptiness of revenge through gameplay.
Yep.
He's got a very annoying moveset in the first stage that consists of like charging you with his car or whatever.
He's got an annoying moveset everywhere.
Well, yeah, I'm just
like getting punched out a window.
Yes, that is the worst part, is phase 2, but to advance the fight, you have to, in the first stage, you have to stand in front of that and counter it at one point, and there's no indication that you would need to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you also need to lose the power struggle to move it forward. Like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's no tell for that either.
Oh my god.
Like, I guess the tell is just
such a poorly designed fight.
It really is. Writing-wise, Jasper Bat Jr. sucks. Like, he's meant to be this number one ranked assassin. Big menace. Be afraid of him. So what does he do? And nothing? And... oh, sorry, let's go in order of what he does. First off, he sends his goons to murder Travis's friend.
Check.
And then he does nothing.
The whole
for
time.
The rest of the game. until you confront him, and he fake kills off your brother, your boss, and your student.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of pointing in this episode, and it's genuinely only because I have the pencil in my hand.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There was...
boss fight sucks. Doesn't feel
I always
good.
liked in the second phase when Henry would pop in and be like, these aren't even real. Get a hold of yourself.
That was good. That was good. And then, like, final phase, it's like a parade float.
It's a big, stupid parade balloon.
It's so weird. Like, I get what they were going for, and that, like, revenge is supposed to be unsatisfying. But that message shouldn't come at the cost of your game. Especially when the 3 bosses prior, Margaret, Captain Vladimir, and Alice, were fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Alice even tack on Ryuji to that, too. Great fights.
They're all, like, some of my... Margaret and Alice are, like, 2 of my favorites, for sure.
Yeah.
And, they could have easily made it work without even ever confronting Jasper if he was gonna suck. Mm-hmm. Like, Alice could have killed him, and I could be like, oh, this is depressing, I have to kill you, and I'm not even gonna feel the same way it would if I was doing it myself. Kind of thing. Could have been so much better that way.
You wouldn't even have to change much of Alice's motivation either. Like... No. You could still have her little speech about, like, set us free from this Crimson Sea or whatever. Like, I don't know, dude. Like I said, I get what they wanted to do, but it doesn't work.
It's funny how the main villain of 2 was built up for the whole game and sucked, but, you know, everything at the end of 1 just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, he has a sister now? Cool.
Oh, he has a brother now? Cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm just the cool, handsome foil who happens to be your twin brother. God. I can't wait for No More Heroes 3.
Oh, me too. It's gonna be great.
I'm so ready for it. Anyways. I guess something we can talk about briefly is... word from our other team members who couldn't show up for this one. Jack wanted us to mention Demise from Skyward Sword as a bad villain.
It's true. And it's a shame that he's not here to talk about it, because I think Demise is fine.
Yeah. I also didn't really have any real problems with Demise. But...
like, I think
it's definitely not cool. As memorable as the side villain.
Well, yeah, Giram's there to, like, steal the show, but the whole time like, a lot of people have beef with Ganon taking the spotlight away from Xant at the end of Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Which,
I can get that.
Even then, I'm still like, I don't know, they kind of... It's weird how the way I manage my expectations is if Ganon is even kind of hinted at, I'm just going to assume he's going to show up. So I'm like... And it was a cool fight at the end there. Like, I like one-on-one sword fights. I'm a sucker for those. So much so to the point that when there wasn't one at the end of Breath of the Wild, I was a little sad. But, like, I think Demise's fight is really cool. Like I just said, one-on-one sword fight, and it, like, upped the spectacle from the same idea from Twilight Princess.
For sure.
Like I said, Giram talked about having a master the whole game, so it's not like he just popped in out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I think his design is really cool. He looks kind of like Akuma, but he's got flaming hair, and it's this cool kind of, like, it almost seems like Barbarian King Ganon from Hyrule Warriors took inspiration from that design, and that's my favorite version of his appearance.
Honestly, yeah. I don't really have too many problems with Demise. Like, I think he does what he needs to do.
Different enough from every version of Ganon. Like, he has this weird respect for Link, because it's like, oh, wait a minute. You're actually going to fight me. I was always like, oh, it's kind of cool.
And you also need to look at it from, like, a timeline perspective, because Skyward Sword is where it all starts, so it's kind of natural that this iteration of Ganon would kind of just be different from what we're used to.
Yeah, like every other version of him, like Ocarina of Time, he's like, ha, I like you, kid, and then shoots you in the face with magic.
Okay. So this is a sidebar. Have you looked at Ocarina of Time Ganondorf's artwork? Like the official artwork?
Maybe a long time ago, but it's not like fresh in the brain. What's up?
I had this pointed out to me recently. His hair goes into his eyebrows.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
It looks really silly and really funny. Like, if you got, like, guys, go look it up. Go look it up right now. I don't care what you're doing. Just stop what you're doing. Go look it up. Go look Ganondorf Ocarina of Time. It looks so silly. It just like molds to his eyebrows.
This is like the anti-Super Saiyan 3 where their eyebrows just disappear. Oh man, let's have a look. Oh, you're right. That's hilarious.
Dude, it's so funny.
That's amazing.
Actually, wait, no, this is a video. Ethan can throw it up on screen. Hell yeah.
Well, that too. But, no.
All you audio listeners can suck it, I guess.
I'm trying to think of, like... Honestly, of the Zelda games I've played, I've liked all of the villains for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, the angle they take with them is always interesting enough. And this might just be because I've not played any other, like I haven't played the DS games, like, who knows, maybe the villain from Phantom Hourglass is real bad, but I don't know.
Spirit Tracks' villain is kind of forgettable, but the character that, like, the side villain he's with is super cool. Burn is fucking great. That's his name. He's got a cool, like, grapple hook arm.
Oh, that's neat.
I think it's just my inner 12-year-old being like, that's fucking cool. But
it is cool.
It is cool.
Without a doubt. Like Ganon is a classic. Like, even though he's just kind of the archetypal bad guy, he's really good at being the archetypal bad guy.
Yeah. He does what he needs to do.
In Breath of the Wild, it's cool that they like take a different turn with it, where he's become like a force of nature and all that. I really appreciated that angle with it. And then like all the other villains that aren't Ganon, like Zant is cool. His turn at the end of Twilight Princess was off-putting, but interesting. You know, Giram is great. Majora. Fascinating.
God. Bless you.
Thanks. But yeah. Even like Yuga from A Link Between Worlds was fascinating.
Oh, yeah. God, I forget. I don't replay Zelda games enough to commit all of them to memory.
I haven't replayed A Link Between Worlds, so I was like struggling because like there's the Yiga clan in Breath of the Wild. I was like, that's right. But yeah, Yuga from A Link Between Worlds was cool because he managed to like siphon Ganon's power and then still keep control of it.
Yeah.
So that was neat. Turned people into paintings. That was hardcore.
Well, anyways. Alright, you want to talk about Virgil?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to just get this out of the way now?
Yeah, let's go. Virgil is fantastic. The funny part is that for like the second half of the game, he almost feels like he slots into more of the rival archetype than he does the outright villain, which feels like Arkham kind of takes over.
Yeah.
But then Virgil, lives longer, so he's the final boss.
It is really weird, really, really interesting that they decided to just kind of axe Virgil off in the third act until the fight with Arkham.
Dude, they just wanted the hype return moment.
It was pretty hype.
They knew what they were doing.
It worked.
It did. Like, yeah, his dynamic with Dante is really interesting because a lot of people tend to think that, like, on their own, they aren't super interesting, but I always liked the way that they played off of each other, if nothing else.
Yeah. Not to mention, like the events of DMC3 lead to how Dante goes about doing everything in the future installments. Yeah,
exactly. Like
it all ties back
really
to that.
Doesn't care about anything that doesn't have to do with his family, it seems, most of the time. Or when it doesn't, it's forgettable, like in 2. Oh man, we could segue into bad villains.
What's Devil May Cry 2? Never heard of it.
Yeah, but Virgil's dynamic with Dante is great. They managed to, even though the dude just seemingly comes back for the special editions and all that, they brought him back in 5, and I was like, for the longest time after 4, I was like, I don't even know if they really need to bring him back, just make him a playable character in like an extra mode, but they did it, and I was like, okay, cool.
It worked. It worked.
It did work. It was fascinating for sure. I liked the whole way the whole V Urizen split was interesting.
The human half and the demon half of him.
Yeah, the Kingdom Heartsification of Virgil there.
My god, it is.
I think it comes off better than most of those, though.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like, even if, like, Crimson Cloud gives away the whole story arc, like, who cares?
I mean, I don't know. Capcom wasn't fooling me when they were like, this character's name is V. And I'm like, oh, I don't care if his hair is black and he doesn't look anything like him. It's Virgil somehow. I don't know how, but it is. You're not fooling me. While also operating under the assumption that Urizen was also Virgil. I just didn't like the two things never like put themselves together until the cutscene there.
Oh, now I get it.
Also, like, for his like dynamic with Nero is better than I ever would have thought it would have been.
Yeah,
because post DMC4, as someone who was like following the series from the beginning, the whole Nero is Virgil's son thing had been something that had been tossed around long before it was ever confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I read that, I'm like, that comes off like bad fan fiction. But it got confirmed, and I'm like, really? But then when they made a plot point around it in 5, fair enough to them, it worked. Like,
yeah, like they don't have a lot of interaction with each other. Hell, the first thing Virgil does to him is rip off Nero's arm. But
yeah.
I think that the moments that they did have were pretty good, and their little
I'm taking this back.
Their little back and forth in the final battle is really good too.
Oh yeah. Did you ever get like his rushing stab done to you while you were playing as Nero? He's like, it's past your bedtime. Yeah. First of all, like that didn't even happen to me until the second playthrough, so I didn't know that could happen to Nero. It happened to me when I was Dante. I'm like, oh, okay, call back.
Just like old times.
Yeah.
I just love it's past your bedtime specifically because not more than 5 minutes ago, Virgil learns he's a dad, and he's already throwing out the dad jokes. He's ready.
Amazing. Oh man!
And then when he stabs Nero, and Nero takes the sword out, and he's like, "It's your turn."
Oh god, it is really good. Like,
you feeling accepting yet? People underrate Devil May Cry's writing.
It's funny because it's like, okay, I would never claim that the story is the reason to play it, but I've always liked it because I've been playing them forever.
It's enough to keep you engaged.
Yeah, like it creates a cool backdrop to like experience through. Like, I'm never going to be super upset if a story in DMC doesn't really do much. Like, the story of 4 could have been so much better than it was.
Yeah.
But that's a story for a different day. But I still enjoy 4 for what it was, you know. Yeah.
I think that's the piece on Virgil. Man comes back for special editions only.
Yeah.
Even in the fighting games.
Oh yeah, Marvel versus
Ultimate
Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
That's hilarious.
Virgil pulls up with Trish. That was wild.
True. That was funny.
Also, shoutouts to Virgil for being just as broken of a playable character as he is a boss.
It is really nice. It's funny how, like, how it's like, oh, it's cool that Virgil's as broken as he is when you're playing as him in 3. And then in 4, when you fight Dante on, like, anything higher than normal, it's like, oh my god, he's as bad as he is when I'm playing as him.
Dude, I felt that in the Virgil's run in DMC 5.
Yeah.
I've never been more terrified of Royal Guard. Like, damn, this shit is unfair. I just have to lose my turn now.
Dante must die. Dante in DMC4 gives me nightmares.
Anyways, I don't even remember where we are in terms of what we're talking about. Good, bad, whatever. But let's talk about some bad things.
Aureus from DMC2. To just kind of keep the train of thought going. Is really lame. So basically, the only reason that he's like this businessman who makes a pact with a demon. He is never believable as a threat to Dante because, yeah, a regular dude is never going to seem like a believable threat to Dante. Especially overpowered silent Dante.
God.
But his voice is shrill and annoying as well, so like he's not even fun to watch be like silly and stupid. He's just agitating.
No,
it'd be like if Arkham never got a power boost in the second half of 3 and then also had a higher voice and wasn't funny like Jester.
Oh no. Now isn't like the way you describe this guy, isn't that kind of like what they did with the villain in the reboot?
Okay, so the villain in the reboot, how different was
Mundus in the reboot?
That was just kind of the skin he was wearing in the human world. He was still like a demon.
Okay.
Is the thing, so like he still didn't come off. His demon form was disappointing. It was just kind of a bunch of pieces of the ground mashed together. It was a bummer. Like it's funny how like prevalent Mundus was in the reboot for more of the game, and I think that DMC1's like total 5 minutes of screen time that they gave the first version leaves a better impression on just what the dude is like. Because yeah, basically Mundus in the reboot is this mustache twirling, figuratively, he's a very bald man. Mustache twirling villain who's just kind of like, oh, I've got the world at my fingertips. I'm gonna kill you, Dante, because whatever. I'm gonna rip open your chest and I've got to rip open your chest and feast on your heart, or whatever he says at the beginning.
God.
But yeah, so he didn't come across very great. A lot of the sub bosses in the reboot didn't come across super great. Bob Barbas was fun though.
And they gave Virgil a fedora. Remember that?
I do.
I do. Also Virgil with an I. Anyways. The last bad villain that I've got on my list is probably going to come off as a surprise to a lot of people. Ethan especially. I kind of wish he was here to debate this, truthfully. This is Shido from Persona 5.
Oh, interesting.
So, for how much of an impact on the story you think someone like Shido would have, being the reason that Joker got sent to Shibuya in the first place, when you finally confront him, he doesn't really do a lot. Like, he kind of just falls to the background in favor of Akechi being put at the front. It's weird to me. Like, when I think of Shido's dungeon, I don't think of Shido first. I think of Akechi. Like,
you think of the scene that. It's interesting. I thought that they did a decent job balancing it myself. Like, Shido being the man above that's just kind of, straight up evil, while it's kind of made clear that Akechi has other intentions at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, when I think of Shido's dungeon, I think of that hyped calling card.
That was a good scene.
Like, I think that they slot him into the role that he's supposed to fill decently enough. Like, Akechi's kind of the one that you're supposed to feel, some sort of sympathy for.
Mm-hmm.
While Shido's more of a, oh yeah, we just hate you.
It's just like
So,
the fact
like,
that
the proximity of the two next to each other, I can see why Shido would be a little less impressive.
what was I gonna say? It's also just like the fact that it feels like the game is building up to the confrontation with Shido, and it doesn't feel like it sticks the landing to me. I feel like, because before this, you run into Shido a handful of times, just out and about your day, out and about during cutscenes, but it never feels like. So then when you finally confront him and Joker takes off his mask, it doesn't. I don't know. The impact just doesn't feel there. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It just feels like something was missing.
So, you haven't played Royal yet, but Royal, you know how they add certain things to the boss fights?
Yeah, I know what they add.
Okay.
They add like the 1v1 with Shido.
You know, that was so cool that I forgot it wasn't in the base game. I was like, oh, right, this didn't happen then. This just feels so natural. I think that's a cool step that maybe in your playthrough might have been missing, because it felt like Joker was actually confronting this dude.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it felt like Shido should have had more of an impact than he did, because even afterwards, it just feels like nothing really comes of it. He kind of just fades away. Like any of the other villains.
Yeah, I think that's probably more symptomatic of Persona's weird structure, where it's always like the story feels like it climaxes, but you know there's still like the one more thing.
Yeah. And even in going into Royal, like, Maruki eclipses him so much.
It's true. Very true.
Like, I haven't played Royal. This is why I wish Ethan was here. Just right down there, even though I'd be down there. Right up there. Or there. I don't know where I'm pointing. But he'd be somewhere. Just be screaming from the heavens. Maruki's great. He'd also be screaming this from the heavens. Adachi sucks. And I wish he was here to debate this, because
we'll have that talk someday. It'll have to happen.
I really want it to. I think that Adachi's a really good villain.
I like him too. I feel like maybe coming in from 5 is what clouded the perception of him for
probably
Ethan. But, you know, we'll have to have that discussion another time.
Yeah. 'Cause, at least for me, what I really like about him. So I'm pretty sure what Ethan likes about Maruki, and by extension what he liked about Namatame in Persona 4, because I know that he really liked Namatame as a villain. It's what hits it home for him is definitely motivation.
Yeah.
And I know for him, Adachi's motivation just didn't hit home. And I can understand that. Like, the fact that Adachi was just doing this, by his own words, because he was bored and was looking for entertainment in a town with nothing in it. But
sometimes people are just like that.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I understand people always wanting like I want the tragic backstory that's supposed to make me understand what makes them tick and all that. But I feel like there are definitely times where shows or games have done that, and I'm like, I don't buy that. This is annoying.
Like,
so I respect
people
when
in the
like,
real
we're just gonna
world
make
are
somebody
boring.
evil.
Like, people in the real world are just boring. Like, nobody has supervillain backstories in the real world, and I think that's what really
some
helps
people just have a screw
Adachi.
loose. Adachi doesn't have any friends. He's just there alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what draws me to Adachi personally, is not what the game tells me about him, but what the game,
what you can kind of,
it's what the subtext tells me about Adachi. Like, there's so many videos going into what, like, diving into Adachi's mental state. There's 2 I can think of off the top of my head are, one is called Inside the Mind of an Edgelord.
I've seen
and another one is where a psych student evaluates Adachi. And just, it's so cool looking at it from those kinds of perspectives, just seeing like what makes Adachi tick. And I also really like that, Adachi is a Persona user by the game's definition of a Persona user. He has accepted his other half. He's accepted that he thinks the world is shit.
Yeah.
He thinks that mankind doesn't have anything redeeming. And I think that in that regard, he works really well as a parallel to Narukami, where you've got Narukami who's like here to make friends, build his social links, and just have a good time out in a Nowheresville town. And then you've got Adachi who's pissed at the world and hates everybody, thinks mankind would be better off turning to shadows. And this is even shown off the parallels between their personas, where Adachi just has an evil Izanagi, which was Narukami's starting persona. It looks really cool. Yeah, I have a bias. It looks really cool. And one last thing I just want to tack on here. The Persona fighting games, P4 Arena, like, when designing a fighting game, you need to, like, the characters don't talk that much, so you need to display through gameplay what your character is like. Adachi is a fucking scumbag, and I hate him. And
is he like a projectile spammer?
Dude can shoot laser beams across the screen whenever he feels like.
Oh god, I can understand why you would be upset by that.
This dude, he's so annoying, but also I get why he is the way he is in fighting games. His grab, especially, like his grab, he trips you and then laughs at you while you're on the ground. Like, this dude is scum, and
that is really funny.
It is.
He sounds like in Smash Bros. He'd be like one of the characters I'd select to just annoy people, like I do with Wario or something.
Oh my god!
Like I play it as Wario to just like eat people and run into them with a motorcycle.
Or like Minecraft Steve.
Yeah.
God. But yeah, I think that Adachi's one of those villains who gets better on repeat playthroughs after you know the twist, quote unquote, and you can start to look at Adachi and what makes him tick. Yeah. I think that he does a really good job. And also, shoutouts to Johnny Young Bosch's performance. He does great work, as always.
Young Bosch is really good at what he does.
You got anything else to tack on, Hunter? Or
to Adachi specifically? No, I think you said most of it.
Coolio. Well, then that's my list done. What do you got for us?
I got one more, but before that, I know Ethan mentioned a few other things. And also, we forgot to talk about Jack's one that he liked. Jack really likes Cortex. We all really like Cortex.
Who doesn't like Cortex?
He's fantastic. Hammy is all get out in his performances and most of his games.
In all the
fantastic games. Yeah, I don't know. I only qualified that because I haven't played it.
Besides maybe like the first game. And like by first I mean original PS1.
Yeah.
But like back in Crash 2 and 3 when he was voiced by Clancy Brown, and now Lex Lang,
Lex Lang did a great job at making it his own, even after Clancy Brown was done. Mm-hmm. Ethan really likes Dr. Nefarious from Ratchet because of his performance, which I've only played the 2016 game, but Nefarious was cool in that. So
I haven't played a Ratchet game. I've had Ratchet 1 sitting on my shelf since 2017, and I've never touched it.
See, I also 2016 is the only one I've played, so, and I feel like that it was a really good time to play it because
that's the other thing. I also downloaded a Ratchet game for free on my PS4, and now I just have it.
Yeah.
I'll get to it eventually.
I really liked the time that it came out because 3D platformers were just gone from a lot of the PS4 generation. Yeah. So I was like, oh man, this feels nice. And, I'll play the other games some other time. I intend on playing Rift Apart when it comes out, The other things Ethan mentioned was Doc Ock from Insomniac's Spider-Man because of the performance as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Red Dead Redemption 2 villain, who was not specified because I haven't played the game.
I also haven't played the game. So,
but
if you know, you know.
Because Red Dead is well written, so probably pretty good.
Heck yeah.
And then, my last villain that I had on my list, which was a good segue from being evil for evil's sake, Kefka Palazzo.
Ayo!
From Final Fantasy VI. Perhaps gaming's greatest villain.
Definitely one of the most notable.
Yeah. Oh, man. He's just so fun. The way that he has his own little arc of building up his threat throughout the first half of the game is interesting. And I don't think I ever picked up on this on my first playthrough. It's always been when I've been looking back at other things in hindsight. It'd be like, oh, man. Right, he was just kind of goofy at first, wasn't he? And then slowly he just, poisons the village that Cyan is from.
Mm.
And then, suddenly he's able to murder all those espers. And then Leo. Yeah. Oh my god. That was like, I don't think I had played. That was like one of the. If that happened in like a modern visual setting, that would be a really brutal scene to witness.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than like just the kind of flashes and then them turning into like the little sparkles.
The crystals, yeah.
If you actually got to see him just wreck their bodies with whatever magic they had, that'd be like really, really harrowing to see.
Please remake this game, Square Enix.
Yeah, that'd be
We'll
sick.
give you money. A lot of people will give you money for this.
But even just the implications there, I was like, oh man, they're all dead now. And then he murders General Leo, who was
poor
like
Leo,
the one good guy in the Empire, it seemed.
Well, and Celeste.
Oh, right, well.
Don't discredit my girl.
I wasn't discrediting her. She had just joined the party by then, was all. No, I think Celeste is great. She's one of my favorites. She was in my final party.
She was in my every party.
She
never leaves.
Parties, yeah. Sometimes they make you split them up, is what I was talking about.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah.
I think the other thing that really helps Kefka is Woosley's translation in the original.
The son of a submariner.
Run, or you'll be well done.
Oh my god.
There's so sand good in my boots. It's just so many weird, iconic lines that just stick with you.
It's so good.
Say what you will about Woosley's translations. They, I for better or worse, they're iconic.
Oh man! And then after he murders the Emperor and becomes the god of magic ostensibly, God. They build up his threat without showing him until the end. After that, really well too, because it's like, he gets bored and just shoots people with a magic ray beam. Sometimes, we'll be like, we need to stop this.
I also really like that Kefka's tower is just always there in the final world. You can go there anytime you want. He's always watching you.
Yeah.
With his fucking Eye of Sauron beam. I don't know. I only watched Lord of the Rings once.
Me too.
Sorry to any Lord of the Rings fans, but those movies are long.
It's too much of a time investment to watch again.
It's so much.
I could play at least 2.5 video games by the time I'd be done marathoning that. And then its final battle, and, Dancing
absolutely.
Mad. Dancing Mad is perhaps the best final boss theme in the history of anything ever.
It's 16 minutes long.
On an SNES game. that's always the baffling part, is that it came from a Super Nintendo game. 16 minutes.
That's just always insane to me.
Nobuo Uematsu's a magician.
We don't deserve him.
Honestly, though. All the symbolism tied to like the stages and the way the music flows with it, too. It's just fantastic. And then, like, yeah, evil for evil's sake. He thinks that people are just, gonna die and life is pointless.
Yep.
And then he just very sadly expires with very little gravitas at the end. It's like, looks like you were right, buddy.
Yeah, Kefka's definitely one of just... He's iconic. Like, if you talk about best villains on the internet, you can't ignore what he did and what he kind of pioneered as a villain.
He also won for the first half of the game.
That's is true.
People who don't know about Final Fantasy VI will still be shocked about that. Like, what?
It's just every time this dude's on screen, it's just gold.
It's just so captivating.
But anyways,
I think
that's gonna wrap it up. This is weird. I'm not used to ending these or starting these.
Oh yeah, honestly.
How do we function without Ethan?
I don't know. I usually don't need to.
I don't know either, but we got an hour, almost 20, so
yeah,
I'd say we did pretty well.
Yeah,
go team. Anyways, how does Ethan normally end these things? Links will be on screen somewhere.
Links to our stuff underneath, or whatever.
Somewhere. Smash that like button.
Subscribe.
Dab on the haters. You know how it is. Like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on audio, give us a good rating. Give us a good review.
All that nice stuff.
And that is going to be it. We will see you guys next week for whatever train wreck awaits us there. Until then, bro, I don't fucking know. It's still May. We still don't have topics.
Yeah, there's still no games.
Still nothing, dude. Video games aren't real. But until then, stay safe. Have a good week. And we'll see you guys next Monday. See you then.
Toodaloo.